Hi, I'm Christian Berger, President of Berger Consulting Group. We often get asked, what are some of the keys to successful implementations? We've been in business for 25 years. We've handled any number of large and small scale deployments, and certainly some patterns and some good ideas best practices, if you will, have come to light. Certainly, first and foremost is the idea of an executive sponsor. We want to have somebody from the organization high up who takes responsibility for the implementation and basically says, if the team needs any help, that's the person to go to. They have clout, they have influence, they can make critical decisions when necessary, put pressure where it needs to be applied. So the idea of somebody committed, it's not a full-time job by any means, but somebody that's committed to the success is a very good first step. Sometimes on a larger implementation, it's good to have a project charter. The charter is really a written document of varying lengths that spells out things like the project team, roles and responsibilities, objectives, time frame, budget, conflict resolution, any number of parameters that are going to affect the implementation. So having that charter, particularly on a larger deployment that involved 4, 5, 6 different companies, including partners and vendors and organization, consultants even, can be very beneficial. Having a strong project team is also a must. When we do implementations, we want to have an A team on this implementation. I know that hurts the organization more when it comes to keeping projects going, doing your day job and so forth. But having that strong team is paramount. It sends a message to the organization that this initiative is that important that we're putting our best people on it. We actually like to see a project manager from the field run the project, because if the implementation is big enough, it requires somebody with scheduling, budgeting, communication skills, marshaling resources, and that's what project managers do. So we really like having a project manager, at least part-time. We also think it's pretty important to spread out the responsibility in that project team. Back in the old days, you used to be able to implement a new ERP system with 1 or 2 people, primarily out of accounting. But you never really developed support, and you didn't develop a broad bench. And if somebody left the organization, too much knowledge walked out the door. So we like to develop a broad bench and really spread the workload out. It's also important to have a good timeline on an implementation, something that's realistic, not too long, but not too short either. Too short, and you're making shortcuts that will affect results. Maybe not enough training, maybe not enough testing, maybe not enough process design. But on the same side, if you're taking too long, your team can get fatigued. There's a term out there called implementation fatigue, and that's when a team is dedicated for too long on an implementation and they get tired and they lose focus. So being done quickly, but also realistically, is pretty important. It is possible to do a phased implementation where you do the basic functions you're trying to do first, and then some of the more advanced or ambitious elements second. The argument you hear on that will be this, that it's easier and quicker to do it that way, staged, but there's also a risk that when everybody's done with the first phase, we're tired, we're done, thank you, and we never get to phase 2. So sometimes we like to bring phase 2 in, take a little bit longer, but then actually have it all done at one time. If you're implementing a system that requires data migration, pay particular attention to that. There are people in the marketplace who are happy to do a full data migration, but a full data migration, including history and transactions, can be a very time-consuming and expensive endeavor, particularly if you can keep your old legacy system online and available for a period of time. There's really no need, and a lot of companies today are just using balance forward, master file types of transactions. A lot of people today, when they're implementing software, will focus on integration. They want to integrate CRM to their ERP, or they want to integrate their time card system to payroll, or their payroll to HR, or their equipment system to job costs. And there are good technologies available for doing that. We're seeing more companies deploy middleware like Boomi and Jitterbit and MuleSoft and Rivet to handle the transactional data between multiple systems. And I think that's an excellent use of that technology and something that IT can support. Now, probably the most underrated and underdone phase of an implementation is something called testing. It's really a part of every implementation, and that is actually going into a test system with your data, your transactions, and testing how they work. And looking at the results, is the desired outcome? If not, what do we need to do to fix it? The testing is a way to strengthen the team and really validate the configuration decisions you've made. Certainly training. Everybody pays lip service to training. Some companies do better than others. Some companies have deployed LMS, learning management systems, to help with as a training platform. But even without that, having people in the organization that know the software and can train on not just how a software program works, but why. Why are we doing it this way? What's the benefit to the organization? So a combination of how as well as why makes for a pretty effective training material. The last two things I would say on implementation: make sure to emphasize process design in your deployment. As an example, procure to pay. Take a look at the entire process from requisition to purchase order to receiving to invoicing. If that is totally streamlined all the way through, you're going to have a successful deployment, rather than thinking either just departmentally or even within an application or a module within a given software product. So think broadly in terms of process mapping. And then lastly, it's very important that you have good, strong support from your IT department. Your IT department is not there to implement the software. They're there to support. They will be asked, should be asked, to help with report writing, integration, workflow configuration, security management. IT absolutely should be involved in nearly all deployments, but in a support capacity, not actually doing the work. So anyway, those are some of the keys that we have learned over the years of managing several hundred implementations of different products. Some of the things that we've seen as keys to success.